Hello and welcome to the Stateside Soccer Show. My name is Jordan, and this is an emergency podcast with just me here on that game. That game that we just watched. If you were unfortunate like me and watched it, what a bummer this game was. Y- Look, last Monday when we recorded, we were very positive going into this game, right? And I was saying 7 points. I've been saying it like all tournaments. 7 points, getting out of the group stage, you'll be in a really good spot. Win your first two games, draw with Uruguay, you're set. Even then, like winning the first two games, and if Uruguay wins their first two games, we're set, right? It's going to be one of us two that wins first. One of us is going to get second. And then I see the Brazil game, right, against Costa Rica. And I'm thinking, okay, Brazil might be not an option for us. Maybe we can face Costa Rica. Maybe we can get in there and have a good time and get to a semifinal if Brazil can't make it and Costa Rica does and we do our job. And then this game happens. And this game was a roller coaster, but it kind of reminds me, if anybody's played Roller Coaster Tycoon, of one of those roller coasters that you make and then it goes wildly off the track because you didn't finish the track. And the roller coaster ride just crashes, burns, and you lose safety points in your roller coaster tycoon park. That's how this game felt, because at first we score like 5 minutes in and it feels wonderful. And you're like, this is the best start we can imagine. And then from there, it's the nightmare fuel the rest of the way, right? With a little bit of a happiness when Balogun scored, but you have the goal called back. Rightfully so. It's not like a USA Slovenia thing from 2010 World Cup where you're like, what are they seeing? It was a pretty standard offside. And then you get to the red card by Weah, which, like, seriously, what the hell was he doing? And you can say, like, oh, maybe one of the players were talking to him. But a point that was made up on the broadcast repeatedly was that this is a team we face all the time. We should know how they play. We should know what they do. Like, why are you letting them get under your skin? We had the ball at that moment. Why are you punching or pushing the guy in the back of the head? Whatever that was there is a pretty standard red card. If it had happened to us, I'm sure our fans would have gone through the roof wondering why it wasn't called. They look at it, they give it, and then that's 18 minutes in, and you're playing down a man for the rest of the time. And at that point, you're screwed. Anything you had planned for this game, whatever Gregg's game plan was, is out the window 18 minutes into this game. And then we had to, Turner got hurt. So then you have to make a substitution there. So I've seen some people say Horvath should have saved the goal, whatever. It is what it is at that point of what we're stuck with. I've seen some people saying Gregg packed it in too early. Maybe, but I think we were always going to be under pressure when we get when a red card happens 18 minutes in, it changes everything because that's so much of the match left. Like getting a red card like they did with 6 minutes left, nothing really changed for them. So it's all about when the red card happens, what happens with the red card, and we score, right? We score a goal to go up, and then it's just bad defending that ruins that before halftime to make it 1-1. Yeah, and then the subs happen, and then, we valiantly defend for a while, and then that goal happens, and it kind of felt like it was coming. It felt expected. And I'll reiterate what I said on Twitter before I got on here. Here's my thoughts. I can't fully blame Gregg for this loss, right? Like I said, 18 minutes in, Timothy Weah, red card. Everything goes out the window game plan wise. I'm sure that wasn't part of the game plan. I also have a little bit of people taking issue with saying, well, obviously that means they don't respect Gregg or Weah this is a reflection of the manager. Sometimes, but sometimes players just do dumb things. And what we've heard is the players all wanted him back, right? A lot of the players, most of the players, whatever it was, wanted Gregg back. Whatever. We stuck by him then. Great. We were very open on this show after World Cup 2022. It was time to move on. I feel like most international coaches should get a 4-year window and be done. Thank you for your contribution. It's time for the next coach. It's kind of my thoughts on when it comes to international windows. You get one World Cup and whatever else leads up to that World Cup. That's it. Well, we're kind of locked in now, right? Or we were going into this tournament. We had the really poor game against Colombia. Then we had a good game against Brazil. But now that game's not looking so hot because of how Brazil's been playing in this tournament. So who knows what was actually true in that game. Then we beat a team we were supposed to in Bolivia, and now we have this result here. So while I can't blame Gregg for all of it fully, if we lose, if we get out of the group stage, if we do not, let me rephrase this. I'm kind of upset. If we don't make it out of the group stage, he's got to be gone, right? He's got to be gone. I heard Alexi say that on the show. So I do think that most people would have a little bit of pressure on Gregg after that, but it's still a question on what U.S. soccer will do because we're 2 years out from the World Cup. I think that's plenty of time to find a coach and just get the team together. We don't have to implement a new style of play, right? Like when you hire a national team manager, you don't always have to do it like a club team where it's like, this guy's going to bring in this system and we're going to have to, you don't have the time with the players every international break to do that. There's not enough international breaks. So in my opinion, just use whatever system fits the players you have. So if a new coach comes in, hopefully they come in and say, oh, these are the players we have. This is how we're going to play. I'm not going to force my own style on it, whatever. And we're going to try to make a good run in 2026. Because what else are you going to do? 2020, like this year, if we don't make it out of this group, a group we should make it out of 95% of time. If I don't want to sound too arrogant, I guess. Maybe that's still arrogant. I don't know. But 95% of the time, I would say we should probably get out of this group. Especially when you're scheduled in the group to do Bolivia, then Panama, then Uruguay. Because you're facing the heavy hitter last. You can literally try to rack up your points. That way you know that last game you don't have to do as much. And that's what my game plan was for this, right? Like win these 2 games, and then you don't have to get any points in the Uruguay game. But if you get a point, great. Go into the knockouts. But now I'm sitting here and I am just, I'm really upset. I really think it is a awful look for this team, and not just on the manager. I think this is an awful look on the players. We've had so many fans always berate that this is an MLS player problem. Star Wars Satan says Gregg out for the love of God. I think you're getting that way if he doesn't beat Uruguay, by the way, Star Wars Satan. I think that's going to happen. And it should. Like I said, if we do not get out of this group, he should be gone. No matter what the players want. They're professionals. They can deal with another manager. Right? They do it at the club all the time. Too bad, so sad, right? But when I do think some of this has to go on the players too. This is one of the most talented teams we've ever had. They have to be mature at a certain point, and that's part of the Weah issue, right? With this, whatever he was doing, punching or pushing. At a certain point, the players have to show us that they are actually this golden generation that everybody wants them to be. Everybody wants them to be this golden generation. But it's starting to look like the Belgian golden generation to me. They need to prove it on the field, right? Like, Gregg can only do so much. So, like, I do think he should leave. I don't think he should have been rehired. But I also think his issue, that was poor defending on the players. Poor defending on the players for that first goal. It was stupid immaturity for the red card. these players need to step up and actually start producing the way that we think that they can. We're starting to get to the point where they're hitting that mid-20s. Some of these players getting closer to the 30, right? They need to start being what we thought they can be. So look, maybe that's another manager. Maybe it's on the players themselves, but I do think you're going to get another manager here at the end of this tournament if we don't beat Uruguay. Because you have to beat Uruguay to move on. That's pretty much what we're done. The only other way I can see this happening is if Bolivia loses today to Uruguay and then Bolivia beats Panama and you draw with Uruguay, right? Like, I think the points work out where we move on. I guess you could also say Bolivia could beat Uruguay. That would put everybody on 3 points, though. And I don't think that's realistic. Like, I don't think it's really realistic for Uruguay to lose to Bolivia. But if we're just thinking of scenarios, the other scenario is everybody has 3 points going into the last match week. You and Uruguay could draw. Panama and Bolivia draw. We all finish with 4 points, and then it goes to all the tiebreakers. I don't want that. I don't think I want that either. I don't know. I felt like I had to jump on here and do it because it was a very fresh in my mind, and I'm not going to be on this week's episode. So I needed to get these thoughts out before the game on Monday because we're looking at a tough scenario, a scenario I always thought we were getting out of this group. I always thought we were getting out of this group. And now the reality is setting in that we're most likely not getting out of this group. So how do you fix this? You have to see what happens on Monday. And if you're knocked out on Monday night, Tuesday morning, Gregg needs to be gone. And I'm not saying that as a hater. Just as a realistic thing of you need to turn the page at that point. If you can't get out of this group, it's time to go. And then I also have to look at the players and have the players have to realize that they need to step it up. They need to step this up going into 2026. We cannot waste, I've said it a few times on the show, we cannot waste 2026. We are hosting it. We will have the most eyes on our national team since 1994. There will be people watching these games because they'll be on our prime time. It's not going to be like when we are like Qatar actually had pretty good timelines, but it's not like when we're in another country or like the Asian World Cups where you have to be up at 2 a.m. and not everybody's doing that. This will be prime time on regular over-the-air channels like Fox, playing our games during a World Cup summer in 2 years. We cannot waste that opportunity. And I'm not even saying to win it. I'm saying to make a statement and get people behind this team in the general public and make them want to see U.S. soccer continue to grow and continue to be good and get behind them, gain new fans. We cannot waste that opportunity. So, look, we don't know what the groups are going to look like in the World Cup in 2026. We don't know. Because, one, it's going to be an expanded World Cup. So, most likely, we probably are getting out of the group in 2026, right? But you want to make a run, right? Like, have we felt good about this team since 2014? 2014 when we made we got knocked out by Belgium in the round of 16, right? But we had a good group stage and we felt like we showed something and we thought there was more to come. And there hasn't been anything that came from that at all. Crazy Game says sports films, Oirad sport films. Thank you for checking us out here. Yeah, it was a crazy game. A roller coaster of emotions. You know, people love to joke about CONCACAF and how CONCACAF-y it is and all that, but that's not what I want, right? I don't think any of us ever want like prime CONCACAF if it's involving the USA. I think a lot of times we want those CONCACAF games to be during games that we don't have stakes in. But this was a pretty CONCACAF match. This ref, I thought, got some stuff wrong. Not the red card, obviously. Both red cards were right. All right, you don't see USA getting past the quarterfinal in the World Cup. See, I have a hard time saying that because we just don't know what the path is like, right? Like, to me, when people set those, like, for this tournament, when they're like, we have to get to the semifinals, and I'm like, I can't agree with that because I just don't like, we have to see how it's going to shake out when the groups go. Like, if we get drawn with Brazil right outside the group or Colombia, right? And they just beat us, Colombia, you're like, whoa, maybe we don't get to the semifinal. World Cup is even tougher right now because it's going to be expanded. And I don't know. Like in the Euros, right? Like England's side in the Euro bracket is pretty easy that you're thinking, oh, maybe they can make a run. But the other side with Germany and all them, you're like, oh, maybe they can't make a run, right? So I have a tough time saying that. I think that they can. We've gotten further than the quarterfinals in a World Cup before, but I do think that the players need to show us something on the field. They have to show that they have the quality that we think they have, and they need to start stepping it up. We can't always default to the manager. But I think it's a mix of everything. I guess that sounds pretty like basic, but I think it's a mix of so many things that need to happen for us to set up a decent run in 2026. I would actually say a quarterfinal run would be pretty good in the World Cup for us since it's been so long. When was the last time? Because we got knocked out by Ghana in 2010. Yeah, does 1930 really count? Yes, it's officially in the record books. It counts. But I would say getting to a quarterfinal is a goal, and I think we can do that. It's been so long. What, 2002, right? When we beat Mexico and lost to Germany in the quarterfinals. But I would take a quarterfinal appearance. Maybe that sounds like a little weak for me for 2026, but like there's going to be more teams. So it's actually going to be a little harder or easier depending on the level of teams, but also who you get matched up against. Maybe you get matched up against somebody harder earlier. I don't know. But I think there's changes that can be made for sure to get us to a quarterfinal by 2026. But no, I think if we're looking at semifinals, you're looking at 2030 or later, honestly. But I just want excitement around the team again. I feel like we don't have excitement around this team. Yeah, we win Nations Leagues, right? We win Gold Cups. But that, like, we're the only team that win the Nations League. Woo, right? Like, that was fun for when it happened. But now it's the real time. Now it's the real, you got to put up or shut up if you're the team, and you got to actually do something. Got to actually make a dent in one of these tournaments. Again, if we get knocked out of the group here, then it's time to move on from Gregg and start looking at, I don't know. How's everybody feel about Weah? Is he I'm not gonna like call for him to be benched, but like, does he like what happens there? Like, he's gonna miss the next game, and they said that they can even deem it as multiple games. So that would be kind of a bummer, right, for Weah, and then you're down a player the whole tournament in the sense of not having somebody else to bring in. But does he get a little break from the team, or does he get called in for friendlies next time we have it? Watch the USA draw versus Uruguay, so inconsistent. Hey, I take it. I would take it. May not get us through, but I want to see it. Yeah, I do think U.S. Soccer Federation will have to wake up, right? Like, I think they'll have to wake up. They'll have to do something if we end up getting knocked out of the group stage. Because if not, there has to be pressure on them too. Like, we have to do, and I'm not saying like pressure. Like, we have to do something, like in the sense of online pressure of like, hey, like, make a change. We cannot waste 2026. I'm really worried we're gonna have like this awful like 2006 level tournament in 2026 that just sucks all the air out of the room. That is what I'm worried about for 2026 right now. Logan, hey Logan, he's on the show somehow. He says we fire Gregg. Do you fire him tonight or after we get knocked out? I said Monday night or Tuesday morning he's gone if we get bounced out on Monday. That's my thought. Logan's calling him as we speak. That's the type of power we have here on the Stateside Soccer Show. Gregg's gone. Oh, man. Could you imagine if that news actually came out tonight? Like I said, it's not really always on the coach, especially in this. Now, there are some things, right? People will bring up like Cameron Carter-Vickers defending, but Gregg is the one that subbed him in. So there is some sort of response there, right? So it's real worrying on how that will go down. Any hope for the U.S. with Gregg as coach in 2026? You mean like any hope for the U.S. in the sense of like us doing well with him, or like the actual possibility that he's still coach in 2026? I would say if he's still coach in 2026 and we get bounced out, I have to clarify, and we get bounced out of the group stage, I really can't see it. I really can't see it. And I can't see it because, yeah, possible to do with him. I actually can't see him being coach if we get bounced out of the group stage. I think the players will start to lose a little bit of faith at that point. Not so much like losing the locker room, but I think it just kind of be like, wow, we should have made it on from this group and we didn't. I do think it is still possible to do well with him in 2026 if he was. Because again, it all depends on how we're drawn, and the players will still be good, but who knows? Oyrad Sport Film says, I don't want to use it as an excuse, but the added time in this game, insane, worst I've ever seen. I agree. I don't know how this was only 4 minutes when we had a long stoppage for the red card. We had a long stoppage for the penalty that was called back. And we had tons of other fouls. Logan says, and I'm sure you'll hear this on the podcast, 2026 is a huge opportunity on our soil. Got to get to the final 8. See, now that's a lofty goal. Final 8, that's the quarters. So I guess that's what I pretty much said. I agree with you, Logan. Quarterfinal or bust in 2026. The dream, of course, is winning, but that's not happening. Unless we pull off like a Greece Euros, 2004 level thing when they like parked the bus to get there. No, I don't think Gregg gets us to winning it or the quarterfinals in 2026. Not sure which one you were responding to. I think you're meaning your quarterfinal goal, but I had just talked about winning it, so I'm gonna say he doesn't do either. But I had to do this for some sort of therapy, right? Like I was so upset after the game, and I know I'm not gonna be on the pod on Monday. If you I'm gonna put this up on the audio feed too, so it's not just like I'm talking to the people on YouTube, but it's I'm actually gonna be my son is being born on Monday, so I will be handling that situation. Um, so I'll have a lot more other stuff on my mind, though I'll still try to catch the game if possible. But Logan is incredibly sad. It was a sad, sad game. Remember when we were like happy 5 minutes in and Weston McKennie scored? That was a good time. That was a good time. Oh man. Well, I hope nothing like getting angry and commenting with people so it feels better. I agree. I agree. And I don't do this a lot, right? Like I don't know if the last time I felt this bad about the state of the national team. 2015 with Klinsman. It was probably around 2015, 2016 with Klinsman. I was a Klinsman guy when he got hired, and then I felt like he really lost me along the way. Um, but I haven't really felt this like because it's starting to feel closer, I guess. The 2026 is starting to feel really close to me that I'm starting to get a little anxious, starting to get a little apprehensive about 2026, that I'm starting to feel the clock ticking, that we need to do something. Jamaica game, that was bad. Yeah, that was and then we lost the third place game in 2015 Gold Cup. I had bought Gold Cup tickets for the final thinking it was going to be us or hoping it would be us. um but yeah, purely like Jamaica beating us to get to the final and then us losing to, was it Panama in the third place game, had me like Klinsman out at that point. And like I haven't felt that way since like this, right? Like qualifying, there was little moments during qualifying for 2022 I was a little apprehensive, but I was just happy to kind of be back at a World Cup again in 2022. I wasn't really living or dying by the results, right? Like obviously I was like, get out of the group. And then you get Netherlands and you're like, all right, let's try to win this game. But I didn't really feel like we'd beat the Dutch. And then we haven't had that many really competitive games since then that have made me like feel the joy or the sadness that this game felt. Because I felt pretty joyful 5 minutes in when Weston scored and then it's called back. And then even when Balogun scored, I was kind of like, oh, okay, there we are. We're going to hopefully grind out a win. And it didn't happen. And it's like, damn. It is so sad, especially now when you do have that toughest game for last, because you're like, all right, we couldn't beat Panama. How are we going to kick it into gear and beat Uruguay? But we did it. Look, if I want to end on a positive note, we kind of did this, right? We lost to Colombia in a humiliating fashion before the tournament, and we drew with Brazil in the next friendly and kind of went in on a positive note. So if I'm going to be optimistic going into Monday, it's going to be, hey, let's pick ourselves up. Let's go out there, shock the world. Maybe some results go our way that we move on with the draw. Or maybe we just end up beating Uruguay playing a totally different old school USA soccer style where we defend and, 2010 World Cup style, 2014 World Cup style, where we end up just nicking the result we need to move on. And if that's the case, if we do that, I'll give kudos to the players, kudos to the coach, and we see what happens in the quarterfinals. But at that point, we'll see. God, I hope that Monday has some good news with that result. That would be fantastic. What time is Monday's game? Is it at 6? Are they both at 6, or are they just let me be miserable, Jordan? No, I got to end on a positive. All right, so Monday's game is at 9 p.m. Both games are at 9 p.m. So they went with the later game time instead of the early game time. So 9 o'clock. Oh, yeah, because it's in Kansas City, so it's going to be 8 o'clock their time. And that is on FS1, Monday, July 1st at 9 o'clock. So we'll see how we go from there. Win versus Uruguay, we could qualify for knockout. Lose, USSF wakes up and we got grouped. Win-win in both ways. Yeah, maybe, right? Maybe there could be a positive. I try not to root for my team to get grouped right now, but maybe there is an uplifting positive side if we get knocked out too. I hope not, though. I hope we end up winning and qualify for the knockout. Let's go with that. Let's dream the highest dream we can dream right now. I'll probably wrap it up now. Lucci, no. I'll probably wrap it up now. Just want to get some quick thoughts out before I'm really busy on Monday. And, who knows what happens. I might be able to record a separate one of these after the tournament, or wait until I'm back on with Logan after the tournament and kind of share my full thoughts on what happens. Hiring a new co-host, by the way. No, not Cincy Lucho. He was saying Lucci for Lucci, who was just fired by Earthquakes. No, thank you. All right, you can contact us at Stateside Show on all of our social medias. Email us statesideshow@gmail.com. We will have a show for you. We will have a show for you one way or another on Monday. And that game is at 9 o'clock, though, so we won't be talking about this. Logan's not going to record that late. So it'll be his thoughts on this and his thoughts on MLS action, all that good stuff. And then we will come back sometime after Monday with our thoughts on the Uruguay game and what happens there. Thank you all for watching and listening along and commenting along. Have a great rest of your night, and we'll see you next time.